Hey everyone, welcome back to week 2 of Making Relationships Work.
Last week, we talked about submission and honor, two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, submission is the posture and honor is the practice. Well, this week we want to talk about another two-sided coin.
Covenant and awareness.
Now, the pairing of those two might not seem obvious, but let me explain. Covenant, your vows that we talked about this past weekend, are the promise you make.
And awareness, you could also call presence or faithfulness. That's the promise you live out.
And if this promise lived out has an enemy, it would have to be apathy.
Hey, let's go on a quick trip back to Turkey 2,400 years ago.
Standing on the shore is a Greek philosopher named Eubulites. And instead of enjoying the rays and the waves, he's wrestling with a question.
If I built a great big heap of sand and then began removing one grain of sand from the heap at a time, is it still a heap?
I guess that's what happens when you invite a Greek philosopher to the beach, but I'm guessing the answer is yes, it's still a heap. I mean, removing 1 or 100 or 500 grains of sand doesn't really affect its heapiness.
Okay, but if you keep removing grains of sand, at what point does it turn from a heap to a non-heap?
Okay, who cares? Like, really?
Well, it's actually important. He was making a powerful observation. Gradual, subtle changes often go unnoticed. Rarely is there a single precise moment when one state definitively transforms into another. These shifts are incremental, creeping up without fanfare.
Oh, like the famous frog in a pot.
Exactly. The frog starts in cold water, slowly heat is applied. In fact, the frog doesn't notice the changing conditions.
Until it's too late. Listen, I hate to break it to you, but that whole thing is built on questionable science.
I know, but it's still a painfully accurate picture of relationships. You know, I'll never forget sitting in a parking lot after lunch one day when Todd asked, "Can I read you something I wrote?"
It started normal enough. Dear Carolyn.
And my heart skipped. I thought, this is going to be something sweet.
Yeah, it wasn't sweet. It was honest. I read about how I felt disconnected. I used words like neglect and unimportant and drifting.
And everything in me wanted to just push back until Todd's voice cracked and a tear rolled down his cheek. And that moment pierced through everything. And I realized something sobering. Todd had been painfully aware, and I had not.
Yeah, same marriage, same covenant, completely different experience. Because we weren't talking about it.
The Apostle Paul in the New Testament book of 2 Corinthians 13, verse 5, and this is in the Message version, warned us about this exact danger when he said, "Test yourselves to make sure you are solid in the faith. Don't drift along, taking everything for granted. Give yourselves regular checkups. You need firsthand evidence, not mere hearsay. Test it out. If you fail the test, do something about it."
Test yourself. Don't drift along, taking everything for granted. You know, over time, it is so easy for the busyness of life, demands, stress, distractions, pressure, time itself to draw us away from our covenant and our vows that we made. But awareness is the relationship rocket fuel that keeps you from coasting and drifting or ending up in a pot of boiled frogs.
Yes. Awareness, also known as faithfulness, falls under the T of our STP formula. The S is selflessness, which we briefly looked at last week.
And the T stands for truthfulness. Now remember, last week we said that a formula makes the complicated simple and gives us a direction to travel. This little STP formula is a handy compass that you can take with you every day. And it's a formula that Jesus lived and taught.
Jesus was selfless, and he calls us to follow in his footsteps, living not for ourselves, but for others.
And Jesus was the ultimate example in truthfulness. In fact, he said in the New Testament book of John, chapter 14, verse 6, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me."
And then a couple of chapters later, he said, "And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free."
You know, there are many components to truthfulness, but today we're only looking at one called awareness, because many couples work hard to craft the right vows for their wedding day, and they're so excited to enter into this fun, romantic, and fresh covenant commitment. But then life begins to remove one grain of sand at a time.
And life begins to raise the temperature of the water 1 degree at a time. And now couples are so distracted, overwhelmed, or focused on other priorities, they begin taking each other for granted.
Let me read this verse again for us. Now, it was written about faith, but it applies to any relationship. 2 Corinthians 13:5. Test yourself. Don't drift along, taking everything for granted. Give yourself regular checkups. You need firsthand evidence, not mere hearsay. Test it out. If you fail the test, do something about it.
So let's get really practical. Your life group leader is going to hand out a relationship awareness checkup. These are a set of guided questions you can use for yourself, or if you are married and both spouses are willing, to do as a couple. We're going to walk you through them, but these are intended to be used outside of life group. As a life group, you will have other questions and discussion points.
So let's take a look at what a relationship awareness checkup might sound like.
Do you feel like you have the best of me right now? If not, where does it feel like my attention has gone? And what does that communicate to you?
Okay, let's stop right there. That is such a great question. And listen, 97% of married couples aren't asking questions like that, but imagine what would happen if they did. That question alone is the antidote to apathy and drifting and taking each other for granted. All right, let's keep going. What's question number 2?
If our relationship had a fuel gauge, what do you think it would be reading right now? And what's one simple way we could add a little fuel?
Number 3, what's something we used to do and share together that you might be finding yourself missing these days?
And number 4, what would help you feel convinced that I'm truly present, engaged, and fighting for you and for our relationship right now?
Covenant is the promise you make.
And awareness is how you keep it. But most times, faithfulness, the kind that takes you through 15 years, 23 years, on through 37 years, and even 45 years, isn't dramatic. It's attentive.
Drifting, coasting, taking each other for granted, along with the natural pressures of life, they don't destroy a relationship overnight. Instead, they slowly wear it down over time, quietly under the radar, often without the couple even noticing.
You started with a covenant, vows at an altar, and a commitment. But the wedding wasn't the end of the adventure. It was only the beginning. And now the real fun begins. Learning to live it out. And there is only one way to do that, to be infatuated with truth and to live fully aware.
You know, we don't even have the full formula yet. We've only scratched the surface of what selflessness and truthfulness mean in a relationship. But I found this STP formula so powerful and so helpful that I actually turned it into a bracelet. I want to be reminded of it every single day. And I want to put my words and my actions and my choices through the formula. You may not have a bracelet, but already you can begin asking yourself this week, those words that I said to my spouse, those choices I made, that reaction I had, was it selfless or selfish? Was it truthful or was it sidestepping the truth?
Admittedly, living a life that is selfless and truthful isn't easy, but it's the way Jesus lived and the life Jesus calls us to live.
Okay, let's launch into our favorite part of Life Group, where you get a chance to share your story, your perspective, your thoughts and learnings. Have a great time together, and we'll see you again next week.